Thing about Michael Kay saying, this is a world where if people are accused of something, we immediately think guilty if they're not a superstar player, than if they're a loved player. But if they're a scrub or a player that's underperforming or a guy that's never brought anything great to the table, like Raymond Felton has, at times he's shown some flashy play, but for the most part, this guy, especially this season, has been a bitter disappointment for the Knicks, who had him, got rid of him, and then brought him back. But they let him play after this charge. What is the deal with the Knicks? They had a glimpse of hope of possibly getting into the playoffs, but now things are just going down, 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 down.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things wrong with this team. The list goes on and on. I mean, Felton had gun charges against him for being stopped by a police officer.
They lost to the Bulls today, by the way.
Yesterday, yeah. So he started against them on Sunday after the impending gun charges and his horrible play. If there was any excuse to bench a player for the New York Knicks, it would be something along the lines of maybe a criminal act, and that's kind of exactly what happened to one of the worst starting players for the Knicks.
If you sit Felton, and you're Mike Woodson, and people ask, why did you sit Felton, you don't say because of the charge.
Why don't you say that?
You don't say because of the charge.
Why?
Because then you're, as a coach, you're basically saying he's guilty. What you can say is, I'm not having him play, I don't want as much media attention.
Yeah, I don't care. Honestly, if I'm a coach, I don't care.
You then bring the media attention on the coach and not the player.
Right.
The fact that Woodson started this guy brings a bunch of unnecessary media attention to him.
There shouldn't be any media attention, no. This country's built off of guilty and innocent until proven guilty. So
it's supposed to be built off that.
No, it is built off of that. Whether it's followed or not is a different story. But that's the premises that this country is built upon, and that's the way it should be followed. So right now he is innocent. Whether you believe in your heart he is or not is different. But what I believe should have nothing to do with what the NBA allows their players to do during this time period.
Well, new commissioner David Silver said himself that, it's Adam Silver actually, the new commissioner taking over for David Stern, said it's an ongoing investigation, innocent until proven guilty, like we're all agreeing on right now, and, until the actual law or state in which he was arrested in New York dictates that he serves trial or goes to jail, or the NBA can't do anything anyways. So, Woodson starts him as if nothing happened. Like he wasn't in any legal trouble, so I understand what Chris is saying. But this is just, come on. Irony. This is irony on a dish for the New York Knicks this season right here. Your worst starting guard of the year, just the person that draws all the attention to you for a bad name gets busted for gun charges, allegedly.
If there's no red flag
and he's
that's
still
being
starting,
fired
Chris,
up here, if there's no red flag that Mike Woodson can see here, there's a big issue. It's a monumental issue here.
Chris, they were down in the first quarter 12-1 against the Bulls. The Bulls were up by 25 at some point in the second quarter. It was disgusting to watch that game. Literally, I think I put this on Facebook. I regurgitated in my mouth watching that game. I had a little bile come up from my stomach.
And now they're going into Detroit facing superstar in the making, Andre Drummond.
They're up 21-11 right now in the first quarter.
You got the Nets actually now hosting the Bulls, who beat up on the Knickerbockers yesterday.
Up 21-10, baby. Nets all day.
Whoa, both New York teams are actually winning. You don't see that too often.
What year is this? 2004?
You are lying, my friend.
Yeah.
You are lying. But now with the Knicks, as we hit the 8 o'clock point, is it safe to say that there is absolutely... we said this 2 weeks ago that, hey, DeMay, was there any margin of hope the Knicks have of getting the playoffs? You're like, absolutely not. But there was still a slim hope mathematically.
Mathematically, Chris, there still is hope. But I am as realistic as it comes.
How many games out of the 7?
Chris, they're like 6 games out of the last spot. Of course they can get in the playoffs. They're not going to get in the playoffs, though.
I heard yesterday that they need to get on a really big hot streak. Lose to the Bulls.
Yeah, lose to the Bulls. Lose to the team that doesn't have Derrick Rose, doesn't have Luol Deng, a team that has literally no offensive weapon.
They're not supposed to be winning, but they're winning.
Do you guys realize that the Knicks are 3 spots out of the playoffs in the worst Eastern Conference I've seen in a long time?
By 3 spots, you mean 3 teams ahead of them?
There's 2 teams ahead of them, and then the 8th place team.
Okay.
So let's put it this way: the 8th place team in the Western Conference is the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are 36-25.
Jeez.
As a matter of fact, the 10th place team in the West is 500. It's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're 29-29.
And what's the Knicks record, Shane? Please.
No,
tell us
not
that.
even that. You ready for this, Shane? The Nets are in 6th place in the Eastern Conference, and they're 28-29.
Jeez.
They're a game below 500,
Yeah.
and they're in the playoffs.
In 6th.
The Knicks are 21-39, and they're only 5 games out of the playoffs.
This team sucks.
Hey, that's a Nets team without Lopez. Let's not forget that.
But
They don't need
my
Lopez.
point wasn't that they're under 500. My point is they're under 500 and
They're still ahead, yeah.
They're not even. They're the 6th place team. They're not even the last play. They're not even the last playoff spot. They're the 6th place team.
Right.
There's 3 teams in the playoffs under 500 in the Eastern Conference, and the Knicks aren't even there.
There's no point. Like, I've literally, I've lost all desire in my body and soul to talk about this team. This team has nothing to offer me on the TV screen. It has nothing to offer me from the head coach in terms of players, in terms of management, in terms of future assets, draft picks, growing stars, role players. They offer absolutely nothing. The only thing that New York Knicks can offer you as a fan right now is the dwindling hope that Carmelo Anthony may decide to stay in New York
Dwindling.
next season. Yeah,
Dwindling hope.
that door's shutting fast.
Dwindling
man.
hope. I mean,
Jeez.
In the beginning of the NFL season, me and Soriano had this segment called God Almighty, What Do They Do? Talking about the Jets. Because we had no hope in the Jets. But then they actually had not that bad of a run. They had a pretty decent season. But now, with the Knicks, we can have the God Almighty segment.
We can do it.
God Almighty,
It's
what
got-
did they do? It's there. It's in the shortcut. God Almighty. That's the Knicks segment for the rest of the season.
That's it. That is it. We're gonna kill it here, guys. Chris Scott, Shane Blackburn. The time right now is 8:01 p.m. on March 3rd. It is officially time for the God Almighty segment of the New York Knicks, starting next week. And we will bury this team here tonight because they are not making the playoffs, okay? They're not going to get into the 8th seed. They're not going to finish with a winning record. The Nets are going to finish in the playoffs. I'll tell you that right now. The Knicks are not making it into the playoffs this year. They don't deserve to. And if they do make it in there, I can promise you, I will not discuss them on this show as a fan. 'Cause they don't belong
Hey, look,
there.
you know what the sound is? Let's put the nail in the coffin on the next season.
Wow.
8:03 p.m.
This guy.
WSA Staten Island, 80.9 FM, Shane DeMayo. I will see you later.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, me and Blackburn carry the load. And what do we got to talk about next? Blackburn, you got the little list in front of you. You're talking about 2014.
We can either go back to the NFL or we can go to the Brooklyn Nets and the rest of the NBA, including a little Jason Collins news. Or we can head back to the NFL. That is totally up to you and the listeners. Let us know. Tweet us, Facebook us, call us, 718-982-3060. WSIA Staten Island, 88.9 FM.